For 80,000 years, the signal drifted across the void. An ancient pulse of energy, etched in frequencies no empire had fully understood, a whisper from the cosmos that had traveled through dying stars, collapsing systems, and drifting dust. Every civilization that detected it paused, listened, and ultimately ignored it, believing it a relic of a forgotten race, a cosmic artifact with no relevance to the present, yet humans had survived. They had endured extinction, exile, and near erasure, scattered across the galaxy like sparks too faint to ignite fear. And yet, they remembered. They listened. They decoded. They understood, a lone Terran vessel, its hull dark and angular, glided silently through the outer rim. It was not merely a ship, it was a relic, a sentinel, a weapon, and a message all at once. Its engines did not burn in flames, but thrummed with harmonic resonance, bending light and gravity subtly around it, moving unseen yet fully aware of everything that watched. Inside, a human commander traced the arc of the ancient signal across holographic charts. Stars aligned in patterns no one else had bothered to notice. Coordinates of planets long abandoned flickered, their surfaces scarred by centuries of conquest and neglect. This was more than strategy, it was memory. Every star was a testament to the persistence of a species that refused to vanish quietly. The galaxy had forgotten humans. It had assumed silence was surrender. And yet here they were, navigating the void with purpose older than most civilizations had existed. The ship's sensors hummed as the signal intensified, a pulse that seemed almost alive, waiting for recognition, waiting for a response. Beyond the Terran ship, a patrol of the Valkyr Dominion moved, unaware of the storm that waited. Massive dreadnoughts, each one a city of armor and weapons, swept through the sector, their crews confident, their arrogance absolute. Humanity had been written off. Their ships, their fleets, their ingenuity, none of it mattered. The Terran vessel's hull shimmered, its cloaking systems flickering like water disturbed. It did not move to attack. It moved to reply. Systems long dormant stirred, power channels realigned, and weapons, sensors, and engines awoke in silent synchrony. Every function was a testament to human ingenuity, adapted over millennia, evolved through hardship. The human aboard stepped forward, their gaze fixed on the projection of the signal. It was more than communication, it was a challenge, a puzzle, a call. And humanity, as always, answered. The galaxy believed it had tamed humans. It believed humans had vanished. It had never understood patience. It had never understood memory. And now, for the first time in 80,000 years, the response began. The Terran vessel moved like a shadow through the dead expanse, tracing the pulse of the ancient signal with absolute precision. Each light year it traversed revealed more of the forgotten architecture of the galaxy, abandoned outposts, shattered colonies, and silent starships whose crews had vanished centuries ago. It was a graveyard, yes, but also a library, and humanity had long since learned to read the silence. Inside, the human commander examined layers of data streaming from the signal. Codes older than most known civilizations, sequences that bent mathematics into art, patterns that teased knowledge of technologies lost before even humanity's recorded history. The ship's systems hummed, translating the pulses into readable coordinates, tactical projections, and warnings hidden in the rhythm of the message. Every sensor, every scanner, every interface became a translator, a bridge between species that had once communicated and those that had forgotten how. Far away, a Valkyr patrol approached, massive dreadnoughts slicing through the darkness like predatory leviathans. Their sensors flickered over the sector, unaware that something far older, far smarter, and far deadlier had already detected their movements. These ships were designed to intimidate, to crush, to annihilate. Yet they were blind to the subtle choreography of the Terran vessel weaving through gravitational eddies and starborne debris fields. A faint hum began to emanate from the Terran ship. Barely perceptible at first, then growing into a harmonic pulse that resonated through the void. The dreadnought sensors struggled, registering anomalies, false readings, echoes that had no origin. Energy fields misaligned. Engines faltered. Crewmen felt, without knowing why, that they were standing on the edge of an unseen precipice. Inside the command chamber, the human touched a sequence of controls, and the ship responded like a living organism. Shields shifted, armor plates aligned, and hidden weapon arrays activated silently. Not to destroy yet, not to show dominance, but to assert presence, to declare that the galaxy had been wrong about humanity. Every subtle adjustment, every hum, every flicker of light was a signal: we are awake. We remember. And we will act. The Valkyr ships altered their formation, unaware of the invisible threads guiding the Terran vessel's movements. A calculated pulse of energy discharged into the surrounding space, not as a weapon, but as a probe, testing the dreadnought's shields, reading their responses, finding every weakness. Systems faltered. Communications lagged. For the first time in centuries, the Valkyr crews felt uncertainty, and then the Terran ship revealed a fraction of its power. A beam of pure energy lanced through space, subtle but precise, targeting a critical junction on the largest dreadnought. Systems overloaded silently. Reactors spiking with energy mismanagement, weapons arrays shutting down before anyone could comprehend what had happened. The dreadnought trembled, its enormity betrayed by a precision strike that carried centuries of knowledge and strategy. The human stood, calm, as the ship prepared its next move. There was no rush, no panic, only anticipation, patience honed over generations. Humanity did not react impulsively. It calculated, it observed, it endured. And when it struck with a force far greater than mere firepower, a force born of memory, intellect, and unyielding defiance. A silent warning pulsed across the sector, faint to the untrained eye, yet unmistakable in its meaning: humanity had returned. Not as a rumor, not as a ghost, but as a force reborn, sharpened by exile and sharpened further by centuries of preparation. The Valkyr dreadnoughts, once arrogant in their superiority, now shifted nervously, their formation imperfect, their confidence shaken. The Terran vessel advanced with deliberate calm, its harmonic engines resonating like a heartbeat of history, every pulse a reminder that the galaxy had miscalculated. For 80,000 years, the signal had waited. For 80,000 years, humanity had listened. And now, for the first time, the response had reached its apex. The galaxy had believed humans were gone. The galaxy had assumed silence was surrender. And the galaxy would soon learn that patience and pride were far deadlier than any weapon. The Terran vessel moved with a grace that belied its size, gliding through the void as though the stars themselves bent around it. Its harmonic engines whispered across the darkness, resonating not only with space, but with the history embedded in its hull, the memory of every battle humans had ever fought, every world they had ever defended, every colony lost and reclaimed. It was more than a ship, it was the embodiment of a species' persistence. The Valkyr dreadnoughts shifted, attempting to encircle the Terran craft. Their sensors flared, trying to predict movements that had no precedent, to track strategies that had been long erased from galactic memory. Energy fields warped around the human vessel. Subtle distortions that made targeting nearly impossible. Each pulse of the ship's engine sent ripples through space, a silent choreography that disrupted perception, misled sensors, and revealed a truth the galaxy had long forgotten. Humans did not merely react, they orchestrated. Inside the command chamber, the human traced intricate patterns across the holographic star map. Lines of potential engagement curved and intersected like threads of a tapestry, projecting probabilities, trajectories, and outcomes. Every flick of the finger activated systems that had slept for centuries, weapons and defenses calibrated with precision, communication arrays scanning for signals the Valkyr had never even considered. It was strategy at a scale the galaxy had not seen since humanity had ruled its own stars. A sudden pulse surged from the Terran ship, striking the lead dreadnought with surgical precision. Its shields flared and buckled under the impact, systems overloading, reactors spiking erratically. The ship trembled, massive engines lurching, while crews scrambled in confusion. A single strike had undone centuries of assumed superiority, demonstrating not just firepower, but intelligence, timing, and audacity. The Terran vessel did not pause. It moved with purpose through the battlefield, weaving between gravitational anomalies, asteroid remnants, and the shattered husks of abandoned stations. Microdrones erupted from hidden bays, invisible to the naked eye, infiltrating enemy systems, shutting down weapon arrays, and creating chaos without a single shot fired from the main batteries. Every move was deliberate, calculated, and devastating in its subtlety. Above the hull, the stars reflected in the gleaming surfaces, nebulae painting the void with splashes of crimson and blue. The humans stood alone on the command deck, eyes calm, fingers tracing the paths of ships and energy flows. They did not panic. They did not hesitate. Humanity had endured centuries of exile, and now it commanded the battlefield with clarity born of survival. The Valkyr dreadnoughts attempted to regroup, firing broad volleys of energy that streaked across the void like bolts of lightning. But the Terran ship's harmonic shields absorbed and redistributed the blasts, channels shifting in real time, energy redirected into the void as a warning. Presence alone was a threat. Their formation began to fracture, confidence replaced with uncertainty, arrogance replaced with fear. The human watched as the largest dreadnought faltered under the precision of centuries-old tactics, its systems failing one by one. The Terran ship pulsed again, the blue-white glow along its spine a reminder that humanity had returned not with brute force, but with intellect, resilience, and unbroken pride. In that quiet moment between strikes, the galaxy seemed to hold its breath. Stars flickered against the black canvas, distant suns shimmered across the void, and every watcher across light years felt the presence of a species that refused to bow. Humanity had been underestimated, erased from charts, and dismissed as extinct. Now, it returned not as whispers, but as a reckoning. Every Valkyr ship in range recalculated, faltered, and hesitated. The Terran Warship drifted with quiet dominance, surveying the battlefield, reading systems, and preparing its next series of strikes. It was a testament to patience, intelligence, and moral clarity. The humans did not act recklessly, but with precision, purpose, and pride, and as the first dreadnought collapsed under the coordinated assault, the pulse of the ancient signal resonated with the Terran vessel, a cosmic acknowledgement that the galaxy had awakened humanity's true potential. A species long written off had emerged, not just to survive, but to reclaim the story of the stars itself. The void trembled with subtle vibrations, as if space itself recognized the awakening of something it had long forgotten. The Terran warship moved deliberately through the debris of destroyed stations, shattered satellites, and drifting relics of civilizations that had once believed themselves immortal. Each fragment glinted in starlight, a silent witness to humanity's quiet return, a testimony to patience and endurance older than most species could comprehend. Inside the command chamber, the human commander traced ancient star charts overlaid with the pulse coordinates of the 80,000-year-old signal. Every flicker of light, every sequence of data, revealed hidden currents in space, corridors and blind spots unknown to even the most sophisticated Valkyr fleets. The Terran ship did not merely navigate, it danced, weaving through gravitational eddies and microsingularities with a precision honed over centuries, a choreography of intelligence against brute force. Beyond the shadows, Valkyr fleets moved to intercept, their dreadnoughts like dark monoliths across the starlit void. They were confident in numbers, in overwhelming size and firepower, in centuries of assumed superiority. Yet as they approached, the Terran vessel remained an enigma, its movements unpredictable, its presence barely perceivable, its systems alive with strategies written before the empires of today had even existed. A pulse of energy flared from the Terran ship, subtle but devastating. Weapons arrays across the Valkyr forward line flickered and died, reactors stuttering under precise microbursts of destabilized energy. No alarms could convey the magnitude of the error they had made. The humans were back, and they had returned not to flee, not to hide, but to reclaim their place in the galaxy. Inside, the humans' eyes moved over the star map, observing, calculating, and anticipating. There was no panic, no desperation, only clarity. Every action, every pulse, every redirection of energy was orchestrated with decades of foresight compressed into a single, decisive response. Humanity's history of survival, ingenuity, and moral defiance was encoded into the very fabric of the ship. The Valkyr dreadnoughts fired in unison, beams of destructive brilliance tearing through the void. Yet the Terran vessel did not evade, it harmonized. Shields recalibrated in real time, energy fields bending light and space, dispersing the volleys harmlessly into surrounding debris. The strikes meant to intimidate only highlighted the Terrans' mastery, their ability to absorb, adapt, and respond with precision no one could match. Microdrones surged forward in synchronized swarms, infiltrating enemy systems silently. Engines misfired, weapon arrays jammed, communication nodes faltered, all without a single visible engagement from the Terran warship. What the galaxy assumed was extinction was now strategy incarnate, centuries of patience erupting into the kind of methodical dominance only humans could achieve. A massive dreadnought tried to maneuver into a position to flank, but every path it attempted had already been anticipated. The Terran ship moved with lethal grace, a symphony of decision-making, predicting the enemy's response before it could be executed. Systems failed one after another, cascading like dominoes across the Valkyr formation. Confidence fractured into chaos, the Empire's arrogance crumbling under the weight of intelligence and patience. The human commander paused for a moment, gazing out at the vast tapestry of stars and warships, silent in the overwhelming vastness. Nebulae painted the void in reds, blues, and violets, cosmic colors reflecting the violence and beauty of history reclaimed. There was no gloating, no celebration, only a quiet acknowledgement that humanity had endured what others could not. It had survived the impossible, and it now orchestrated its return with the precision of a species that refused to surrender to time. Tyranny, or erasure, another pulse surged, brighter this time, more focused, striking multiple dreadnoughts simultaneously. The fleet staggered, systems collapsing, engines shutting down, and the Terran vessel moved unharmed among the chaos. The galaxy had believed humanity gone, and in that very disbelief lay its mistake. The humans had returned, not as ghosts, not as whispers, but as architects of their destiny, as defiers of the cosmos itself. In that moment of stillness amidst destruction, the Terran ship radiated a silent message to the universe. We are here, we remember, and we will no longer be forgotten. The galaxy had begun to notice. Signals from distant systems pulsed nervously, as colonies and fleets whispered rumors of a warship that moved through space like a shadow yet struck with the precision of a storm. The Terran vessel had become more than a ship, it was a force of nature, an echo of a civilization the galaxy believed extinct, reminder that patience and intelligence could outmatch any army. The Valkyr fleet scrambled, trying to consolidate, to form a wall of numbers and firepower that could overwhelm this anomaly. Massive dreadnoughts bristled with weapons, escorts flanked the main line, and orbital arrays flickered to life, each element aimed at annihilation. Yet none of it mattered. The Terran ship moved not with brute force, but with strategy honed over centuries. Its path through the void was a sequence of calculated maneuvers, exploiting the blind spots no sensor array had ever recorded. Inside, the human commander's fingers traced arcs across the star map, guiding the ship with a precision that seemed almost preternatural. Every pulse of energy, every microdrone release, every shift of shield harmonics was a decision made decades in advance, encoded in the ship systems, refined by centuries of human ingenuity. It was not luck. It was memory, strategy, and will made tangible. The first wave of the Valkyr fleet struck, firing broad volleys of energy meant to overwhelm. Beams arced across space, massive explosions illuminating the void. But the Terran ship anticipated each strike, harmonics bending energy, shields absorbing and redirecting, engines weaving through gravitational currents to keep the vessel untouchable. The attack that should have shattered it merely highlighted the ship's mastery. Microdrones surged again, invisible and precise, infiltrating enemy systems. Weapons arrays short-circuited, engines faltered, and communication lines stuttered and died. Each vessel the Valkyr had relied upon became a liability, turned into a trap without a single direct engagement. Chaos spread across the enemy formation like wildfire, and the Terran warship glided among it, calm, methodical, unstoppable. The human paused. Observing patterns across the holographic maps, every flicker of enemy movement anticipated before it even occurred. They did not need to chase. The battlefield unfolded in a way only a species with centuries of patience could orchestrate. Each destroyed or disabled vessel was a lesson, a reminder of the consequences of underestimating a species that refused to vanish. Then, the Terran ship unleashed its next calculated strike. Energy pulses, precise and deliberate, targeted multiple dreadnoughts simultaneously, exploiting vulnerabilities discovered through patient observation. Systems overloaded, shields collapsed, and one by one, the largest vessels began to falter. The Empire's arrogance was unraveling before a single human-commanded vessel. Its mastery of the cosmos a statement louder than any battle cry. Even as chaos spread through the enemy fleet, the Terran vessel remained serene, a silent conductor orchestrating the downfall of a fleet that had believed itself invincible. Nebulae cast ethereal light across the void, illuminating explosions and the debris of ships shattered by intellect rather than brute force. Stars shimmered like witnesses to the resurrection of a species the galaxy had tried to forget. A quiet moment passed within the ship, almost reflective. The humans' gaze traced the paths of stars, vessels, and distant colonies, understanding the broader scope of the battle. This was not mere revenge. This was reclamation. This was humanity asserting its place in a universe that had long dismissed it. Every pulse, every maneuver, every calculated strike carried centuries of survival, endurance, and moral clarity. The Valkyr fleets were broken, not just physically, but in spirit. Confidence had become uncertainty, arrogance had dissolved into fear, and the Terran Warship moved through the wreckage like a sovereign among ruins. The galaxy, for the first time in ages, was learning that the humans it had dismissed were neither weak nor forgotten. They were deliberate, unyielding, and far more dangerous than anyone had ever anticipated, and through the chaos, the Terran vessel emitted a faint pulse in the same ancient frequency that had awakened it, the 80,000-year-old signal now mirrored in a reply sent not merely to communicate, but to assert presence. Humanity had returned, fully alive, fully aware, and fully prepared to reclaim its legacy across the stars. The void seemed to pause. Across light years, the remnants of the Valkyr fleets drifted, their engines silent, their weapons dead, their arrogance extinguished. The Terran vessel moved calmly through the wreckage, untouched, unbroken, a living testament to patience, strategy, and human ingenuity. Every pulse of its engines, every shimmer along its hull, spoke of a species that had endured centuries of exile and returned with purpose. Inside, the human commander observed the holographic star map, noting every disabled dreadnought, every scattered escort, and every abandoned outpost. There was no triumph in their gaze, only clarity. Humanity did not revel in destruction, it wielded precision, intellect, and restraint. Victory was not measured in obliteration, but in survival, in presence, and in the reclamation of a destiny that had been denied. Across the galaxy, the echo of the ancient signal spread, mirrored now by the Terran reply. Worlds long silent began to stir. Colonies once forgotten flickered to life with renewed communications, fleets sent decades ago in search of purpose recalibrated their courses, and distant civilizations paused, sensing a force that had re-emerged from legend into reality. Humanity was no longer a whisper in the void. Humanity was a pulse, a presence, an undeniable truth. The Terran vessel systems hummed in harmony, resonating with the cosmic currents that had carried the ancient signal for 80,000 years. Weapons arrays, shields, engines, and communication nodes worked in perfect synchrony, guided by the experience, memory, and intellect encoded in every circuit. The human at the command deck moved with serene authority, orchestrating a sequence of energy pulses that swept through the remaining enemy forces, not merely destroying, but teaching, a lesson in underestimation that would echo for generations. One by one, the Valkyr dreadnoughts faltered completely. Engines died, shields collapsed. Weapon arrays short-circuited, and their once proud formations disintegrated under the weight of a strategy built on centuries of foresight. The galaxy had believed that intelligence could be overcome with brute force. Humanity proved otherwise. The most lethal weapon was not the largest gun or the fastest engine, it was mind, memory, and unyielding will. The Terran vessel drifted through the aftermath with quiet authority. Stars reflected on its hull, nebulae painted streaks of color across the void, and the silence of space was filled with the hum of a civilization asserting its rightful place. The human commander surveyed the scene, noting the balance of life, technology, and opportunity. There was no need for haste. Humanity had waited long enough. Now, it acted with precision, purpose, and pride. The pulse of the 80,000-year-old signal reverberated in harmony with the Terran ship systems, carrying across space not as a warning, but as a statement. Humans endured. Humans remembered. Humans were no longer to be dismissed. And in that resonance, every observer across the stars, enemy and neutral alike, understood a truth that had long been underestimated: a species that survives for millennia does not merely exist. It commands. It adapts. It triumphs. As the Terran vessel set a new course through the stars, undisturbed by the remnants of defeat, the galaxy felt the weight of its presence. Humanity had returned, not for vengeance, but to reclaim, to restore, and to announce that silence had never meant surrender. The stars themselves seemed to pause, watching the rise of a force that would never again be ignored. The galaxy had listened, the silence had ended, and humanity's reply echoed across the stars: we endure.